Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 1990s Represent. We're starting in on our sixth cycle of 1991, doing an album for this video. And this week, we're taking a look at 2PacalypseNow by Tupac. So this is Tupac Shakur's studio debut album. He had previously worked with the Digital Underground. Digital Underground still involved in this record. I believe their team produced it. So the Underground Railroad is the Digital Underground's production people. So they ended up producing this record. Like I said, this is Tupac's debut. Let me got my notes here. This is actually a brand new notebook. We just finished the notebook up with our last episode of 1990. So yeah, completely new notebook here for. And this will probably last me a couple years, hopefully. I got like 2.5 years out of the old notebook. But anyway, so instead of having to flip all the way to the back now, I only have to go a few pages into the front, and there we go. Yeah, so 2PacalypseNow, first released November 12th, 1991. Like I said, worked with the Digital Underground on this album, the Underground Railroad specifically. This album peaked or reached number 64 on the Billboard 200. It's very interesting because this album came out, and then I think each of his other albums got more and more popular. Like just far as I think, he kind of started off kind of small with Digital Underground, and then kind of just put out an album, and then put out another album, and just kind of grew kind of organically, which is kind of interesting. So like I said, reached number 64. There was, I believe, 3 singles off this album. Those singles are Trapped, Brenda's Got a Baby, and If My Homie Calls. And this is actually a fairly new album for me. I hadn't listened to it prior to getting ready for this series, so haven't listened to every single thing he's done. I do think I like Me Against the World and All Eyes on Me more than this one. This one is still pretty solid. It's a pretty good, just, I guess, gangster rap album. Kind of covers a lot of the issues that were kind of present in NWA's Straight Outta Compton. A while back, I did that album for a New Essential album. I'll leave a link in the description to check that NWA one out. Not completely related to this video, but it will be in the description if you want to take a look at it. Let me see, yeah, but Tupac at the time was just incredibly prolific through music and movies. Like in the early to mid 90s, he just had a ton of over a short period of time. If we say his solo career is 91 to 96, in very early 96, because All Eyes on Me came out in February of that year. So from November of 1991 until February of 1996, he had put out 4 studio albums. So it's 5 years. In 5 years, he put out 4 albums. That's pretty prolific. I think there was maybe, so in 1991, he put out this album. And then I think Strictly, I'm just going to call it that. I can't really say the rest of that album. His second album, can't really say the name of it. But he put that album out, Strictly, in 1993. A couple years later, did Me Against the World. That one's got Dear Mama on it. It's a great album there. So I have heard that one. I think the only one I haven't listened to now is his second one. I need to go back and re-listen to that. So maybe for one of the next, maybe not this cycle, but maybe a future cycle, we'll do that for 1993 or something. But after 1995, he put out, or after Me Against the World, he put out All Eyes on Me, his final studio album, double album, like we all know. We discussed that on this channel already. I'll leave a link to that one in the description as well. But then on top of doing all those albums, he had a group. So basically 4 studio albums in that time period. And then he did Thug Life Volume 1, which was a kind of a group album. I think that came out in 1994. So almost every year he was putting something out. I think the only year where he didn't put anything out was maybe 92. So we have this in 91. 92, I don't think we had anything. 93, we had Strictly. 94, we had Thug Life Volume 1. 95 was Me Against the World. And 96 was All Eyes on Me. So, basically, if you count those out, that's 5 albums, and with only, 1 year where he didn't release anything. It's kind of crazy. And then on top of that, he was putting out a bunch of different movies as well, such as Juice, Poetic Justice, Above the Rim, Bullet, Gridlocked, and Gang Related. Some of those movies are came out, I think, after his passing. So I think like Gang Related came out in '97, I think, and I think Gridlocked came out, I think, like a little bit before that, and I think Bullet came out like literally just like very shortly after his passing in the fall of 1996. So a bunch of albums, a bunch of movies. Above the Rim is definitely one I want to cover on this series at some point because it's kind of cheesy. It's like an inner city basketball movie. Tupac plays I think his character's named Birdie, a very good villain. Wood Harris from The Wire's in that as well. So at some point I may do Above the Rim on this channel because I haven't seen it in like probably like at least 20, 25 years. But anyhow, back to this album. This album again covered kind of a lot of the issues that maybe not a lot of people knew about at the time. If you like, if something didn't make national news, I mentioned this on the NWA video. If something didn't make national news in the like early '90s, you maybe just didn't hear about it. We didn't obviously did the internet wasn't widespread. News wasn't really spreading around there like the way it is now. There's no social media, so unless something was like big happened, it probably wouldn't make national news. It would probably make like local news or maybe like state news or something. But living like away from these areas, you maybe not heard of some of these issues. And there's issues of like obviously like gang violence, like drug use, all that kind of stuff. Stuff that is touched upon in a lot of the kind of rap of the time period, like the Chronic, for example, at the Straight Outta Compton again. Stuff also in a couple years later, I think Nas's Illmatic, even though it's a different coast, it's East Coast and not West Coast, discusses some of that stuff as well. So it's a very kind of like socially conscious album, this one here. The other ones as well. There was a interesting quote from Dan Quayle about this album. Let me actually pull that up. It kind of just whole stuff about like the like First Amendment. Let me just type that in. Yeah, so Dan Quayle was politically, like obviously the vice president at the time, criticized the album, basically saying, because I think there was like so according to this, there was a Texas Highway Patrol trooper that was killed, and the person that shot this guy basically said they were influenced by this Tupac album, influenced by 2PacalypseNow, and yeah, because there's definitely like a whole bunch of stuff about like the police in this album, like police brutality, stuff like that. Very similar to the F the Police song in NWA's Straight Outta Compton. But Dan Quayle made this quote, which is, quote, "There's no reason for a record like this to be published. It has no place in our society." Which I think kind of obviously goes against the First Amendment, but also kind of keeps a lot of this stuff out of the like public eye. And I think like an album like this, like a lot of the stuff that's mentioned on this album is stuff that, like I said earlier in the video, maybe many people just didn't know about or wouldn't know about it unless it made like national news. So I think a lot of times in like the early '90s, we got a lot of information, obviously probably secondhand, but like through like lyrics in music, particularly rap music, because if you weren't like in the areas where these albums were discussing, like South Central or Compton or wherever, it's just stuff that you maybe wouldn't have heard about. So I think Dan Quayle's quote is kind of incorrect. I think an album like this should exist, and obviously him saying something like that obviously goes against the First Amendment, and that's why we have like stuff like the parental advisory stickers on there. I think that has more to do with Al Gore's wife, but same kind of thing where they were like, the stuff on these albums is offensive. We obviously can't say that these albums can't be published, so we need to put something on there to at least advise people of what the content is. But it's kind of funny because I remember like having albums like in the '90s that had the parental advisory sticker that had nothing really questionable on it at all. Or you would have song like and I don't know if it has to deal with just swearing, because I know in Green Day's Dookie, which came out in 1994, has some swearing, but it doesn't have a parental advisory. So I don't really know what tips the scales. Is it like if you're talking about like violence, does it get it? If you're just swearing, does it not get it? I don't really know. But the movie came out, or not the movie, the album came out to pretty good reviews. Let me just bring those reviews up here really quick. So AllMusic has it at a 3.5 out of 4. Q gives it a 4 out of 5. Rap Reviews has it at an 8 out of 10. Rolling Stone, the new Rolling Stone album guide, I should say, has it at a 3 out of 5 and a B plus from Tom Huff of On the Web. So I think it's kind of, like I said, I haven't listened to all of his albums, but out of the four, I think it's probably, and I said I still haven't listened to his second one, so I need to go listen to that one at some point. But I feel it might be like his kind of weakest album. I think he definitely developed his rapping skills over the course of kind of like the 4 studio albums that he did, plus that one group album. And I do feel that I think All Eyes on Me and Me Against the World are probably his best. Me Against the World is really good, and All Eyes on Me, like we've done that one on this channel before. But came out to okay reviews, and then let's take a look at the track listing here. We get the length. So it comes in at about 55 minutes and 7 seconds. And our track list here, let me just pull it up. There we go. 13 tracks, 55 minutes basically. Track 1 is Young Black Male. Track 2 is Trapped. Track 3 is Soldier Story. Track 4, gonna have to edit this, is I Don't Give an F, or I Don't Give a F. Track 5 is Violent. Track 6 is Words of Wisdom. Words of Wisdom was like a really good album, a really good song on the album. I really like that one. Track 7 is Something Wicked. Gonna have to edit the name of this track here. Track 8 is Crooked Ass Playa. Track 9 is If My Homie Calls. Track 10 is Brenda's Got a Baby. Track 11 is The Lunatic. And track 12 is Rebel of the Underground. And track 13 is Part-Time Mother. There's one great album or great track where I think it might be Words of Wisdom, but I'm not really sure. Actually, just pull it up, because I actually saved it to a playlist of mine. Let me just bring this playlist up really quick. Let me just Google the lyrics to make sure that they're correct. Because at the end of the song, he just goes through and lists off a bunch of like, yeah, he's like calling everything like America's Nightmare. He's like Tupacalypse, America's Nightmare. Ice Cube, the Lynch Mob, America's Nightmare, like mentioning them. Above the Law, America's Nightmare. Paris, America's Nightmare. Public Enemy, America's Nightmare. Basically other rap groups that were kind of bringing attention to a lot of the same stuff that Tupac was. He's calling them America's Nightmare. Probably not in a bad way, but like probably like, hey, like this is stuff that's real, and it's not like the American dream necessarily. And he keeps going on that as well. That's a good thing. Yeah, so Words of Wisdom is probably my favorite track on the album. And this is a good starting point for Tupac. I think his albums get better. Again, I need to go and listen to his second one. But his third and fourth, which are Me Against the World and All Eyes on Me, are excellent. I would highly recommend checking those out as well. So that is going to do it for this episode. We'll be back in a few days with a movie. No idea what that movie is going to be just yet. We'll be back with that. And then we will also be back a few days after that with a video game before jumping into 1992. So that's going to do it for now. So remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you again next time. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. See ya.